You know, we've gotten an enormous response to this new segment. Okay, in the Cavuto family, but it's been big. It's a big family. We call it Neil's Spiel, and here's why. It's my time in the show where I vent about something that I think is out of control. And I usually get out of control myself just telling it. And what's got me spieling lately is all this Washington spending. What's new, you ask? Well, how about just crossing the $18 trillion in debt? Think about that. We as a nation, we're $18 trillion in the red. That, my friends, is what you call a big hole. But here's the thing. We're still digging. We're still spending. $6 billion for Ebola, billions more for everything from infrastructure projects that never seem to fix what they're supposed to fix, to comparatively measly hundreds of millions of dollars for police cameras that never seem to focus on where the problems really start. No matter, they spend on your dime, oblivious to the financial havoc they are about to unleash on all the world. Yeah, the world, because it's a lot of money that they're spending. It gets old saying that it's been very fortunate that interest rates have been this low. It gets old my saying if those rates were only slightly higher, we'd be in a whole heap of worse trouble. It gets old saying we should do something when the president's all but bragging about $500 billion deficits as if that is something. As if only spending $500 billion more than we're taking in a single year isn't so bad, when it's just another $500 billion added to a debt that, like I say, is way beyond bad. So we smile and ignore the problem, Democrats and Republicans alike punting, hoping to blame the other for the problem, because it is easier to pretend than to lead, to keep spending than to ever admit, you know what, we're spent. We are all spent. And pretty soon this country's credit rating won't be worth spit, because you can only play these shell games for so long before investors propping us up say, so long. That's when Washington will panic. That's the moment they run out of options, because that is when they run out of something else, our money. And if former Office Depot CEO Steve Odland is right, and he always is, that's when we run out of our future. Steve, 18 trillion, greeted with a yawn. What did you make of that? 18
trillion. It took us, what, 225 years to run up the first $9 trillion in debt. That $9 trillion was called unpatriotic, and in a half a dozen years we've doubled it and added another $9 trillion.
Very good point. And now I just wonder, you know, there's no looking back. I mean, there's no urge to at least cool it on the spending. We're doubling down on the spending.
Well, nobody seems to care, and there's no understanding that every dollar that we spend today and go into debt is going to have to be paid off by somebody. So you have over 10,000 people retiring every single day, going on the dole, expecting to be paid, and you've got everybody over 65 who are saying, well, this isn't, you know, I'm not going to have to pay for it. Anybody in their 20s, 30s, 40s, these people need to wake up, because the bill's going to come due at some point and we're not going to be able to afford it. Soon we're going to have to spend every dollar in the federal budget just to pay the interest on the debt, and that's before the interest rates go up. It's completely unsustainable, and we have got to get serious and act like adults here and start to reform the policies that we've got into place, especially Medicare and Social Security.
Oh, well, God forbid we even try to touch or adjust the rate of growth in that. Look what they did to Paul Ryan. They all but treated him as Lucifer. I tell people, especially young people who work here, we're a few years off from more than half of our budget going to interest payments on the debt. Imagine people at home dealing with all their bills, and half their money is going out to pay interest, not even the minimum balance, but interest on their Visa bill or MasterCard bill, and I'm leaving out their mortgage. I mean, game over. Game over. Yet this game continues.
Well, it does. And, you know, we as parents tell our children, no, you can't have that. No, we can't afford that. So we're able to put this kind of discipline into our own personal lives. But then when we go to the ballot box, we say, yes, we want more. Spend money on this. Spend money on that.
Yeah,
it's
because we all want what's for us, and we all think it's due for us. That's why I always said if I ever ran for office, it would be no bacon, no bull. I wouldn't give you anything, because I would remind people of how much we're spending, how deep in the red we are, and how, with all the good intentions in the world, if you don't have any money in the pot, you can't spend anything at all, you know?
Well, and we keep saying, let's tax the rich. Well, you've got 400 400 individuals paying as much as the bottom 50% of all taxpayers. They're paying for everything right now. That kitty is going to go away.
You could tax the top 1% at 100%, and that wouldn't even cover our obligations for the next few years just for our entitlements. But
you could you could seize all their assets, and it wouldn't run the government for more than a few weeks.
Don't give them any ideas, Steve, for God's sake.
The point is here, we have to stop spending, and we have to act like adults. We can't afford everything. Yes, these are great programs. How can you argue against this or that?
Yeah.
But we have to have some discipline.
You can make a good case for almost any government initiative. I always tell, I work with a very young crew. It's the bane of my existence. I tell them, I look okay for Social Security. None of you do. That doesn't really bother me that much. It might bother you, but just letting you know, you're doomed. And
we all have to keep ranting about this. No, we you know, and the young people need to step up here, and they need to realize this is serious.
They're more concerned and attuned to this than you know. They do give me hope. But Steve, thank you very, very much. Good seeing you again.
Thank you, Neil. Good to see you.